Hello, everyone. My name is Yana Križanova, and I would like to introduce you with the results of our work titled Food Expenditure and Vegetarianism, the influence of work status in more sustainable and economical food choices. In this work, the main finding is connected to sustainable, cheaper diet. Vegetarian diet could be related to unemployment. These are the main contents of this presentation. The innovation of the present work resides in the following. Generally speaking, people tend to avoid meat for different reasons, including health, morality, environment, spirituality, and culture. In Western societies, currently there is a trend in adopting plant-based diets for animals' rights and pro-environmental behavior. Nowadays, in Western cultures, adoption of vegetarian and vegan diets links to status quo, white race, and a middle to upper class. However, if we compare this tendency with Spain, that is a region following mainly the Mediterranean diet with year-round fruits and vegetables availability. In this case, adopting vegetarianism may connect to unemployment and economic difficulty. So, as mentioned previously, there are several motivations to adopt plant-based diets. For example, a balanced vegetarian diet increases physical health and it's suitable for all stages of the lifespan. On the other hand, meat-based diets are positively related to water shortage, pollution, soil erosion, and world hunger. In this case, vegetarian dietary transition could contribute to counteract planetary degradation and reverse exploitation of natural resources. It is also important to mention morality that still supports killing animals in order to fill our plates. In this vein, vegetarian diets show more compassion than omnivorous diets toward farm and wild animals. In addition, vegetarianism relates to lower public health expenses. A shift to vegan diet could actually reduce global mortality by 6 to 10% by 2050, saving thus the equivalent of 30 trillion US dollars on mortality costs and an additional 1.67 billion US dollars on treating illness. These figures are quite interesting. Following with the line of research connecting vegetarianism and food expenditure, we find that one barrier to adopting vegetarian diets might be related to perception that they increase food expense. In this case, evidence suggests mixed results. There is evidence supporting that vegetarian diet can be either expensive or less expensive, or there is no significant relation with monetary cost. So the evidence supporting vegetarian diet is less expensive shows that actually people can save money while avoiding meat. There is also line of evidence that supports that vegetarian diet is more expensive than meat-based diet. And also the relationship of income and meat consumption shows that in high-income countries, meat intake is mainly static or declining. In middle-income countries, mimicking developed economies, meat consumption is increasing considerably. And in low-income countries, meat consumption tends to be low and stable. So let's have a look now at the employment status, economic difficulty, and food expenditure. We find that economic difficulty or unemployment status have very significant implications for the economic, social, and health situation. it may lead to changes in their consumption habits and dietary choice. The general rise in prices along the entire food chain has led to lower consumption in several food categories. For example, 32% of Spaniards are reducing consumption of fresh food, meat and fish, due to the rise in product prices. This translates into that meat consumption has fallen by 10% to 25%. As Spain suffered the highest unemployment rate in the UA, we find this location very interesting in order to place our study. Andalusia was the third region most affected by inactive employment status. At national level, Andalusia had higher levels of unemployment than other autonomous communities within Spain. The main goal of this work is to study the promoting and hindering factors of money spent on food in the post-pandemic scenario. The first objective is vegetarianism linked to lower food expenses in Andalusia. And second objective is does employment status influence the link between vegetarianism and food expenditure? Next, we specified our hypotheses. These are the three main hypotheses where we link vegetarianism and food expenses and establish employment status as a mediating, possible mediating factor. We work with females and males over 16 years old, residents in Andalusia. Finally, the size of the sample was of 2,400 participants. Data collection was obtained mostly online, and the remaining survey were collected by telephone. These are our materials. In order to study food expenses, we acknowledge demographic variables and food identity. As for demographics, we work with age, gender, female, education level, work status, and also as for identity, we specified omnivore, organic omnivore, flexitarian, pescatarian, lacto-vegetarian, and vegan identity. We designed three different ordinary least square regression models specified below. And once we ran the regression models, we ran post-hoc mediation analysis and tested whether employment status engagement would mediate the link between vegetarianism and food expenses over the past week. These are the results. So in table 1, we can observe the results from the descriptive statistics of the variables under consideration. We can observe that omnivore represent the majority of the sample, and lacto-vegetarian 2%, vegan 1%, which aligns with representation of these food identities in Spain. As for gender, a female represent 51% of the sample. 56% of people are employed at the time of data collection. 43% experience economic difficulty. We find further that in food identity, economic difficulty, 59% represent almost 60% of lacto-vegetarians experience economic difficulty. In table 2, we can observe the descriptive statistics of food expenses per each food identity. Interesting is to observe that it is the lacto-vegetarian identity that spends less money on food, specifically 97.8, while vegans spend the highest amount of money on food, 167.3. Now let's have a look at these two figures. In figure 1, we find box plot depicting medians of food expenses in the past week per food identity. And we find that lacto-vegetarians have the lowest median. In figure 2, here is the horizontal bar graph representing female gender, economic difficulty, and active working status related to progressive phases of meat-reducing identity. So we can find that lacto-vegetarian identity has strong female representation. Is the identity with people in unemployed situation more than other food identities, and has strong economic difficulty. In this case, in this particular case, lacto-vegetarians experience the highest economic difficulty in comparison with other food identities. Now, in this table 3, we can find the results from the regression models predicting food expenses. Namely, we first introduce control variables: age, female, gender, education, employment status. Next, we add economic difficulty. And finally, we introduce meat-reducing identity. We find that lacto-vegetarian identity is negatively connected with food expenses. As mentioned in methods, now we are running mediation analysis and we find the following results. Lacto-vegetarian identity negatively relates to active work status. Work at the same time positively predict food expenses, and lacto-vegetarian identity is also negatively related to food expenses. This is the mediation pathway from lacto-vegetarian identity to food expenses via active working status. In this table 4, we can find the results from the mediation analysis depicting the link between the lacto-vegetarian identity and food expenses as mediated by work status. The main findings of our research are the following. First, sustainable behavior manifested in adoption of vegetarian identity negatively relates to food expenses during the past week. This means lacto-vegetarians spend less money on food than other food identities. Second finding, employment status differs among different food identities, and it's a unique and positive predictor of food expenses. And finally, unemployment has a mediating role, partially, between vegetarianism and food expenditure, explaining why vegetarians spend less money on food. Therefore, people may opt for vegetarianism in periods of unemployment, since meatless diets associate with lower food costs despite their pro-environmental benefits. This could be translated for further policy design, aiming for more sustainable food pattern, that they should focus on the economic benefits of vegetarian diets, especially very useful for economically vulnerable groups. So just resuming, vegetarian sustainable diet has dual perspective on their benefits. On one side, we have collective assets, planetary preservation, and pro-social well-being. And on the other side, we are allocating individual assets, health benefits, and economic savings. And thank you very much for your attention. If you would like to ask any question or get in touch or suggest an improvement, we are at your disposal. Thank you.